sure, for sure. Hey, I was actually thinking, that when it comes to politics, especially
Yeah.
in Africa, hey, we have a lot of questions we have to deal with, you know, and other people other people have questions. We have questions, when you say the question of land,
Yeah.
it's
Passion of
these are
culture.
questions. Hey, we have questions. We're not dealing with questions here. So yeah, man. I was just thinking in the context of our discussion today, because I know last time, hey, we spoke a lot about various geopolitical issues, but for this conversation, I wanted us to sort of tie these things in together. Uh, so, I'll also take your direction in terms of what 1, 2, 3 points we can take into consideration. Um, I think we still have to go back to that conversation on the red pill, and we will. But now, uh, I'm thinking about geopolitically and nationally from a South African vantage point. You know, um, considering all of the different movements that are taking place on the continent and some of the things that I'm seeing, I sort of get a sense that uh, we are we are at a time that you could sort of see similarities between this era and the Cold War era, sort of,
Yeah.
where um, power is being renegotiated globally, and there are power shifts taking place, and naturally the world superpowers are challenging each other. There's a contest of power taking place, and you're seeing, with what happened with Russia and NATO, and Ukraine there, being used as a launch pad and a battleground for those contests, and then you see also the contests taking place with China in the mix as well, and then you you see the different movements that are taking place on the African continent then, that
Sudan,
those,
DRC.
yeah, and then those forces, global forces, are in many ways uh, intertwined with these movements that are taking place on the continent. Because now, obviously, there are questions of the Russians and their involvement in the Sahel, and obviously, a lot of the leaders, those uh, the brothers who are now in charge there as a result of the coups, um, a lot of them have expressed that they are receiving support from Russia. And naturally, then, obviously, this makes the Western Bloc very nervous. And and then now you see, uh, so recently I've seen some of the developments in Niger. I think they severed their ties with the US in terms of the military cooperation that was taking place there. And I think Traore as well said the French must go,
Yeah.
and then so you have all these leaders making these moves that they are making in that region, and it looks like it's going to be very contested, that region, because now um, obviously there's the issue of those countries breaking away from ECOWAS and starting to form some sort of alliance themselves outside of ECOWAS. And then those questions now are coming up. So there are all these geopolitical movements that are
Mm.
taking place, and I'm looking at, then, okay, we go from that level now and we come back now to South Africa and our national questions
Yeah.
with the elections coming up, and it makes me. I've been thinking a lot about this because when you think about who should be the representative of the Republic of South Africa in the coming elections, and for those of us who are postured very much for African interests, you really think about it. So for me personally, I think about, okay, the kind of person who represents the country that I would want as president um, has to really be in the likeness of a Traore,
Yeah.
in the sense that it has to be one who has a very much calm demeanor in how he deals with things. I mean, that guy, you can see when you look at him and how he addresses things, even difficult questions, provocative questions. The guy will show you the logic of the argument that he's making. And, he will emerge victorious from the debate, and not based on any kind of emotional blackmail or anything, but he will beat you with the points and the arguments that he's making. So he has that, but also he has the radical aspect of him where he will make the difficult decision that ultimately could be very unpopular, but there is an effect or a result that he's looking at, that there's a vision that you see that the guy has, you can see that this guy, last I saw when I was looking at his movements, he was dealing with the agricultural project that they have going on now, and he's pushing this idea of food sovereignty, exactly in the same mold as Thomas Sankara, did in the early years, focus on this idea of food sovereignty and so on. So you can sort of see that there are those leaders that are emerging, right? And then leaders that you can sort of see are progressive, as I had mentioned last time, on the continent. And so then I start to think, okay, last time we spoke about Pan Afrikanism. So I think now, um, maybe our conversation as it relates to Pan Africanism must then graduate to the ideals of Pan Africanism that have been spoken about. Seemingly, there are some people who are moving in that direction, not having debates about it, not sitting down in seminars and conferences about it. I mean, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali are not sitting in conferences. They are sending each other oil. They are, you understand? They have opened up their region. They are pretty much one region in a sense. They are doing cooperative economics in many ways. They are not talking about Pan Africanism. They are doing the thing,
They're at the
And so
level of praxis.
yeah, they're at that level.
While we're still us, engaged in theory and who's right, who's a better Pan-Africanist, who understands Pan-African history better, who can articulate it better.
They beyond that level now. I mean, Traore and the brothers. So I look at that and I'm like, maybe instead of focusing on these old structures, AU, ECOWAS, SADC, ESAS, VAT, maybe the real Pan-Africanists are coming through and emerging, and in the way that it should be. Let this thing filter, let this thing filter, and let's see who's who and who's standing where. Because now it's starting to filter and the closer we get to our election, I can see all the different moves that are happening on the continent. I'm like, okay, it's starting to show now who's standing where. I can sort of see, okay, in the Sahel region there, you've got Traore and the guys there. And then you have Senegal there. We are still trying to assess what's happening, but it looks like he's also on board there.
Looks like it could be promising.
Yeah, it's promising. Yeah. And then we see we still have to make some decisions on our side, So I'm thinking, yeah, as it relates to a head of state, I want someone who is going to be with Traore and them, And so I was thinking about something funny, and I was thinking, think about if we F around and try to find out as blacks, and then we decide, I know we're going with the DA. So I'm thinking, imagine, imagine
Steenhuisen.
Steenhuisen at the African Union. And then they're saying, okay, we're now going to have the head of state of South Africa addressing us. And then Steenhuisen stands up there with his suit.
The Western paternalism that you can imagine coming, that could come from him, you know, trying to lecture everyone about democracy and good governance. I don't even want to imagine it. You know, the scenario that you just painted, it looks like a nightmare. I don't want to imagine it. So please, let's not go further.
No,
Point made.
Yeah, okay, let me just put a little bit of salt in the wound, just a little bit, then we will move on. Now, remember, the chairmanship or the presidency or whatever of the AU rotates. Now imagine, it's South Africa's turn. And His Excellency John Steenhuisen coming through on behalf of South Africa.
Or Herman Mashab.
Herman Mashab.
And also things like, even if we take it away from things like African Union, even the chairmanship of BRICS rotates. I mean, imagine putting Mashaba there. I mean, Mashaba is saying that ANC learned corruption from Russia.
And you must put him with Putin now. He must conversate. He must conversate with Putin.
Yeah. He must conversate with, Xi Jinping. So, some of these scenarios are scary, and I'm just glad that, they're very far away from the realm of possibility as far as our political dynamics are concerned.
Yeah, I know. So I was really just thinking about that, hey, man, there really are crucial sort of decisions we have to make.
No, absolutely.
Also, within the context of all the different sort of geopolitical movements that are happening, because now, hey, with me these days, I always just think about how I always start my analysis at the geopolitical level, because I think that won't mislead you, So in terms of myself, how I'm looking at this is, okay, I'm looking at Africa and all these different territories, and I'm looking at myself. So I'm looking at it from the bigger picture. There's a small speck right here on the southern part of Africa in the whole picture. And I'm thinking about, how do I align myself to ensure that I secure my interests in this whole space? So just think about Africa, the terrain, all of the beautiful fertile land, the resources. I'm thinking about it in African terms, not even just South Africa. I'm just thinking now at a larger picture. So I'm seeing myself there as one of the players. So you see, and I think this is what the conversations
at the level of power politics.
Yeah, so you see, the conversation will now start to diverge, because now this is not a conversation you can just have with anyone. So what are your aspirations? What are your ambitions? Now it goes different paths now, because I was just thinking about it, that there are those who also are happy with, and I'm sorry for talking so long, but I'm going to give you ample chance to just, deal with these things. But there are those who also are fine, seemingly. There are those Africans who are fine with ending load shedding, resolving service delivery, sorting out corruption, dealing with crime, creating jobs, making sure there's water, and they would be happy.
And you're forgetting others as well.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right in those whom you just described, but there are those who are fine with load shedding continuing, with lack of service delivery, with not resolving all these questions that you've raised. I think we shouldn't forget those ones as well.
Those who are fine with the status quo. So there are
Those who are
those who are
fine
fine
with
with
the
the status quo, and then there are those who are saying, okay, if we could just tweak here, Nyana, it'll be fine. And then there's me.
Yeah.
I think you are also in this club. So I'm like, okay, this is now this story I'm telling. Looking at the African continent, all the resources, all of it, from the south to the tip top north. And I'm thinking, okay, now what political forces should I align myself with to ensure that my own ambitions have even a chance of being realized? So when I start there, that level, already in South Africa, there are a number of players who already fall off as it relates to the political game, first of all, which is the conversation we are having here. You know, as it relates to the political game, already the DA is gone. You know, they they are no longer players. You know, in terms of who would I choose, for example. You know, as I'm in this sort of analysis, already from that sort of level, DA is gone. Action SA, all these guys,
all the neoliberal parties, really,
they are all gone now already. You know, those options are all gone now.
Yeah.
So now I start to think about, you know, and if I'm being honest with you, in terms of who might be having the best chance, in terms of when I looked, because I compared in terms of, okay, what are the most important things I want, I have aspirations towards, questions like land, you know, questions like a bigger stake in the economy. As a player, want to be a player also there and contest for the territories, the resources, and you understand? Yeah, those more dangerous levels, you know, where you're dealing with the real stuff, you know, where the money is being made and everything. We want to get in there,
where decisions,
you know,
are being taken.
Exactly. So we want to get in there. We're not happy with you know,
Staying on the
small
margins.
SME, small to medium enterprise. Those things are fine, but guys, can we also
No, they have their role. They have their role as well. They have a specific role that they're playing.
Absolutely. But can we also, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. In addition to this.
Yeah. So now if I put up the question, if I put up my hand in these political dialogues and say, guys, I want land because I want land where there are resources to mine and I would like to be assisted to mine there and make money. I also want to be a billionaire, you know. I think I'm good for it and I want it. I don't think
you deserve it.
Yeah, you understand? I look at some of the people who are billionaires in this country, and I look at I don't see that there's anything particularly special about them, which makes them different to me. You know, so I'm like, yo, I'm conversant here. So open the doors, let me in, show me the ropes, give me the stuff I need to set up. Let's go. You know, let me make the millions. You understand? And from there, I want land which I want to develop for a sustainable community for my people. You know, give me. So now, who best helps me? Who is closest? And with significant influence in the country and also on the continent. So now I ask do you see?
Yeah, no, I get where you're where you're gravitating towards.
It funnels that. So realistically speaking, okay, the DA is gone. I think it's like the ANC. It's better to have a living dog than a dead lion, you know, type of thing. Like, yeah, Bafethu, Lizamile. Maybe this is where you've hit the ceiling, so it's fine. Thank you very much for your service. So next we are like, all the neoliberal guys are definitely not going to hear what I'm saying. So
No,
they are gone.
definitely,
So
definitely.
now, so now I'm left with the EFF guys. So
As we are
now,
talking, I'm at the back of my head. As you should know, I'm like, what other option is there? Because we're eliminating, and also it's also because when you just peruse these elections manifesto, I think the EFF is one party that takes international relations very seriously.
absolutely.
And that's the point that you are raising. And I like that you touched on this. It is the fact that in as much as these are arguably the most crucial elections that we've had since the dawn of democracy in 1994, and it's in as much as we have so many problems within the country that need immediate attention, we cannot at the same time look away from our role in the region, in the continent, and globally, especially within these dynamics that you've articulated quite well.